Yo guys, what's up? This is Sam, and today I'm doing a video simply because of that reason that I got a lot of requests, especially on Instagram, about this new laptop that I got maybe half a year ago or something like that, and it really goes into the hundreds by now. Like really a lot of requests. I don't know exactly how many, but shit tons of requests. So first of all, to clarify, it is a laptop, because some people thought maybe it's something that I built myself. But no, it is a laptop. It's called the Asus Zephyrus Duo 15 SE. That's a 2021 model. And you can immediately see what is special about this device, I guess. It's definitely the touchscreen. This touchscreen integration that you have here is really what this laptop is about. But not only, because there are other important, really cool features that we can talk about it. And I used it now for half a year, also while traveling. So I think I have a quite good all-around opinion by now about this laptop. And if it is a good laptop or a bad laptop for myself, because that's obviously something that is rather subjective. So let's get into it. What is so special about it for me as a music producer? Well, first of all, this. I can actually have my mixer here on the touchscreen while I'm in Cubase natively. I mean, you don't even have to adjust or mod or do anything to the software to do this, because it's doing it by itself. And this is actually a big deal, because either before that you had to use two screens to have the possibility of having one screen exclusively reserved for the mixer, which then gives you the ability to immediately level sounds without changing screen or pressing a button or swapping. And obviously that's a big deal. Also, you have an immediate visual representation of your levels, so you can actually see what is going on there at all times. Big deal, very big deal it is. And of course, it's not only in Cubase. I mean, in many softwares. Let's, for example, take something that is kind of popular, Netflix. You have the ability to actually expand that over both screens, okay? So then you have it like that. And you can just scroll through it on the touchscreen, and then, you know, just choose whatever you want to choose that way. And that goes for actually quite a lot of applications. Now you also heard, maybe you heard that in the beginning the laptop was not making even a noise. But now when I opened Netflix, it actually started to kick in the fans, but they're still super quiet. So you need to keep in mind that it is whisper quiet still, but it's still running actually, you know, dedicated music software at the moment. And that's the thing. Many times it's also running on 0 RPM. If you are just doing normal office work, the laptop in many cases will actually run on 0 decibel, because it can basically passively cool itself, which is kind of amazing if you ask me. So that's also a big deal. Then, yeah, what more is there to say? The engineering is kind of interesting, because you have this mechanism where it folds out, and behind this screen you actually have the fans, and they can suck incredibly a lot of air and blow it out, cool the elements and blow it out at the side underneath it and in the back and on the other side. And it's quite frankly insane what this laptop is capable of because of that reason. Laptops are always very much bound to their thermal capabilities, so you can have a lot of really fancy gear inside your laptop, but if it's not running on a proper wattage, because the laptop is not able to cool down properly, then you have less. Here it's a different story. Now you can actually see 0 RPM, this is what I talked about before. The laptop now is literally, you know, there is no noise in my studio, which is fascinating. It's really, if you're using laptops for some time, then you know that 10 years ago, 5 years ago, laptops of that class were usually extremely loud, and this beast is running on 0 RPM. And it's really punching over its weight. That's another thing with this device. Of course, it's, you know, it's a flagship device from the top line of Asus devices. So we kind of expect that stuff, but this is actually a technological and design achievement in my opinion. And it is especially useful for creators because of the dual screen setup. So another thing is that you actually, in my studio I'm working with a mechanical keyboard, but when I'm out and about or in my living room, what is really cool is you just press a button, and then you usually what you do is you just open something by touching it, and then it's going to open. So this is, you are interacting with Windows in a different way. Also those panels, which probably are quite uninteresting for you, they become more usable when this is a touchscreen, because they're kind of, almost they seem like they would be, you know, like designed with that in mind. And it kind of flows nicely together. The performance is for the most part, not only for the most part, is actually completely mind-blowing, especially in the GPU department, but also in the CPU department, and just general performance. Also the capability of having 2 NVMe drives set up in RAID is something that is really, really cool. Another big one for me with the Zephyrus Duo is certainly the capability of USB-C PD. So what does that mean? That means that you can charge this laptop with an actual phone charger. I mean, you know, results may vary. You should use 100 watts USB-C charger, that would be the best. But you can totally charge the laptop with a 50 watt charger, and you can also run normal tasks, and you will be still, you know, like getting more energy out of the outlet than you will be probably using, because the thing is incredibly efficient. That's also the reason why it's so silent. I mean, that's not silent, that's non-existent. No fan noise. And I think that's one of the first super high-end laptops in the world probably that feature completely passive cooling. Yeah, don't quote me on that, probably there are maybe even multiple, but of this class, you know, this like plus 2,000 euro flagship gaming devices, they were not silent usually, and this one is, so that's a really, really big plus. Gaming performance, for the people that are interested in that, is quite frankly absolutely insane. No matter what you throw at it, you will most likely come out at plus 100 frames, even in the most demanding and new ray tracing games. So when it comes to that, it's a real stunner. And this almost exclusively comes from the wattage of the GPU and the CPU and the cooling. So as I said in the beginning, it's really important how well can you cool your device, and secondly, how much wattage can you put through the components that are inside your laptop, i.e. your CPU and your GPU. Especially, like how much electricity can you pump through them and still, you know, can basically compensate for that by having a good, sensible thermal solution for the thing. And in this case, it's the highest wattage TGP GPU on the market. It's, in this case, I was going for the 3060 model, and I'm so happy that I took the 3060 model and not the 3080 model, for example, because you really have diminishing returns. First of all, it's running on the same wattage, and secondly, you know, you're not going to have a lot more frames per second effectively, although you have a lot more shader units, etc. But battery life is a concern. There is also a 4K model of this laptop, and I was going for the 1080p variant. Again, I'm happy to report that the battery life of this thing is also quite incredible. You're gonna get around, from, depending on your use, maybe 5 to 10 hours. It's a quite wide span, but that obviously is like, you know, dependent on, are you using the dedicated GPU? Because you can quickly just switch that one off and will last a lot longer. Are you using the second screen? And on which brightness levels are you using the second screen? The most important thing with a laptop is that you feel that you are not limited by your battery life, in my opinion, when it comes to that stuff, when it comes to battery life. You don't want to have that feeling that you cannot go out a full day during traveling and do multiple sessions of internet surfing, writing to people, maybe doing a little bit of work with videos or photos or music or whatever, and you're not going to run out of juice, and it gets there. And on top of that, you have the capability to, as I said, just take a small phone charger with you, ideally a 100-watt charger, and charge the thing on the go, because it supports USB-C PD. So I think that rounds up a couple of important features. Of course, you also have decent speakers, a decent keyboard with an awkward placement, but to be honest, you know, that's the kind of trade-off that you are having here, and for me it totally works. Ultimately, when I'm typing on that keyboard, I have really good performance, typing-wise. Of course, you cannot even start to compare it to such a mechanical keyboard as the Rocket Vulcan that I'm using here. That's like literally a really well-built and amazingly feeling mechanical keyboard. And this is a notebook keyboard. And it's a good one, but not the greatest one ever made, certainly, but absolutely serviceable. You have a good touchpad, which again is awkwardly placed. Those are the trade-offs that you have with this notebook, but in my opinion there are very little. Some reviewers actually complained about the price point, but I think it's totally fair, because it starts at 2,500 euros. Now you can get it already cheaper. I got it a lot cheaper, for example, but that was really lucky. And it's the second generation, so last year that thing was, I think, starting at 3,000-4,000 euros. Now it starts at 2,500 euros. You know, you are buying, first of all, something that has kind of a novelty factor. It's the second generation of the first real dual screen laptop in the world that actually doesn't suck balls. So this is the first time that engineers and designers managed it over many years. This thing took ultimately more than half a decade to design, if you calculate all the previous models that led up to this, like the Zephyrus S, etc. So obviously you're paying for that. Also, you have a nice chassis, you know, you're getting some high quality build, of course, in this case. Can it compete with Mac in this regard? No, almost nothing can, except Razer, but it's definitely on the top end of PC cases and how the whole thing is built and how it feels. There are very little complaints. I can really recommend this laptop for people that, first of all, you know, can afford to buy such a thing, and then secondly, to people that are, you know, working professionally as music producers or anything of that matter. I mean, it also has a nice screen, not the best screen in the world again, but 100% sRGB, and you can actually get a calibration file. That's what I did, and I calibrated it with that file from laptopmedia.com, which I'm not affiliated to, by the way. Anyways, guys, I just wanted to clarify what this laptop is for the people that are interested in this thing. And there were, as I said, actually quite a lot of people. And that's pretty much it. I hope you're having a great one, and I see you guys soon. Bye bye.